Hello viewers, so I'm back with my new video for grade 8 UAE SST Indigenous People of North America. So here we have the learning objectives to understand the history of indigenous people of North America and to appreciate the achievements of them. The UAE link. UAE has very ancient sites discovered in Jebel Hafid, Al Nar, tombs in Alan, and so on. The CC link. We shall study about the past civilization of North America, so it should be related to history. Now, here we have one question for the class discussion. You can go through the question. This is what I could understand. I wrote down the answer for it. You can add some more points of your own. Now, who were the first people, those who arrived in North America? It is not clear when the first people arrived in North America. Some scientists believe that people migrated to North America from Asia during the last ice age of 20,000 years ago. The migration could have taken people from the northern area in what is now Russia across the Bering Strait. At the time, the strait, that is the channel of water or the passage of water, the strip of water, would have not had water. It would have appeared as a shallow valley. So it was easy for the people to migrate from Russia through the Bering Strait into northern America. Other scientists believe that there were several migrations. Evidence has been found showing settlements in the Oro Grande cave in New Mexico, USA, from about 35,000 BCE. So that means that it is not only the people from Asia in the last 20 years ago that they have migrated, but there were several other migrations taking place. This was because the last ice age, the evidence suggests that earlier migrations could have happened as early as 40,000 BCE. So there are just speculations about it. Nothing is confirmed about who are the original inhabitants and from where they have migrated and come. Now, the Native Americans, the people who were living in the Americas before the European explorers arrived, are considered indigenous people. That means they are the people who are the first people in Canada or the Native Americans in the US. Indigenous people were called Indians because the first European explorers thought that they were in the East Indies. When they were in the East Indies, they landed in the Americas. So when they landed in the Americas, they felt that they have actually landed in East Indies. Native people of Americas should not be called as Indians. So this was just a misunderstanding of the European explorers, those who first went over there, thinking that it is a region of East Indies. So they called the people over there as Indians. Here we have activity 2, which is from your textbook. You can go through the questions and the answers over here. Adapting to the land. Man from the beginning is said to be quite flexible animal. Wherever man goes, he tries and sees to it that he is should get adjusted or adapted to the environment. So adapting to the land, especially in such a region which is having severe winters. So, in the Arctic regions of the far north, the Inuit tribes lived by hunting in the polar region and fishing in the icy waters. So life is not that easy in those areas wherein we have got such severe winters. Everything is frozen, so hunting also becomes difficult, whereas fishing is too challenging for them. The Northwest coastal tribes, including the Salish tribes of the British Columbia, living from fishing and gathering the plentiful shellfish they found along the Pacific coast. The California native people hunted, gathered, and fished. So they had a very primitive lifestyle, completely dependent on the sources either from the land or from the sea. On the plains, the tribes included the Sioux and the Cheyenne, who hunted buffalo as they migrated across the grasslands of the Great Plains. In the east, the Six Nations of the Iroquois Confederation thrived means they developed so well in the 18th century. So these are the names of the different tribes which you can find over here: the Salish tribes, then the Sioux and the Cheyenne, then you come across the Iroquois. So all these tribes, they thrived, they built their habitat, they lived in this region of North America. So they are said to be the original inhabitants of America. So here we have the learning objectives: to understand the history of indigenous people of North America and to appreciate the achievements of them. The UAE link: UAE has very ancient sites discovered in Jebel Hafid, Al Nar, tombs in Alan, and so on. The CC link: we shall study about the past civilization of North America, so it should be related to history. Now let us see the tools and the inventions of the early people of North America. Native Americans in North America adapted to their local environment in various ways. As I have told you, viewers, that man is such an animal that wherever he goes, he tries to adapt himself to the surrounding. So how did they adapt themselves? In the Pacific Northwest, they used the bark of the coastal fir trees to make fibers and materials for shelter. and that shelter, which uh, also was helpful for them as a raincoat. So, as a rain gear, when we say, is the raincoat to keep themselves dry in the wet climate. So, it might be rainy seasons, and during that time, this is the way the people got protection from the bark of the coastal fir trees. Next is in the southwest, they used stone and mud bricks to make permanent housing shelters, and in other places carved their housing into a soft stone canyon walls. In the eastern regions of Canada and the United States, the Iroquois tribes and other people carved canoes out of the trees and used them to travel great distances along the rivers and lakes of their region. Now, in the next slide, I have put up all the pictures what you have come across over here in this slide as an information has been put up in the next slide as pictures. In the plains, the native people lived in a semi-nomadic pattern of movement to follow herd of buffalo and other animals across the great grass plains of the plain region. They used arrows with stone tips to hunt the buffaloes. So they used to sharpen it, and they used to sharpen and chip off the stone so that it could be used as tips that could easily penetrate into the flesh of the buffaloes. After the Spanish introduction introduced horses, they used horses to travel and hunt animals. So that became an easy way for traveling, as well as they could mount on the horse and go in for hunting animals too. The native people used the skins of the buffalo and deer that they hunted to make tents and clothing to protect against the cold weather. So here you can see the pictures of the fiber clothes which were made by the people to protect themselves from the different climatic conditions. Next picture, what you can see is the tree bark and how it has been given a shape of a canoe which they can use it down the river stream. Then we have the tents being made over there out of the buffalo and deer skin. And then you can find that how these people are mounted on the horses and they are trying to kill the buffaloes. So they are doing the hunting over here with the help of the horses. Activity 3, here we have a match, and this is what I could understand, so I have matched it over here. You can go through. And now over here is the Aztec civilization in Mexico. In Mexico in 1519, the Spanish viceroy Hernando Cortes conquered Tenochtitlan, the largest city of the Aztec Empire. At that time, Tenochtitlan was the largest city in North America. After the Spanish conquest, it became the site of Mexico City, the capital city of Mexico today. When Cortes entered Mexico City for the first time, he found a highly developed civilization. So he was thrilled to see the civilization so developed. So, what made him so happy to see a developed civilization? Because these Aztecs had their own written language and a highly developed system of city planning, irrigation, agriculture. They had their markets, public spaces, temples, and a long distance system of trade. So, by this, we can understand that they were really a highly developed civilization. The Aztecs were not liked by other tribes. Now, it is because of they being so prosperous. So, they were definitely not liked by the other tribes because the other tribes couldn't come so close to them in these things. Cortes took advantage of these rivalries among Mexican tribes. He got some of them to join him in attacking the Aztecs. Cortes had the Aztec chief Montezuma imprisoned, where he died of disease or maybe because of poisoning. Adapting to the land. Man from the beginning is said to be quite flexible animal. Wherever man goes, he tries and sees to it that he is should get adjusted or adapted to the environment. So adapting to the land, especially in such a region which is having severe winters. So, in the Arctic regions of the far north, the Inuit tribes lived by hunting in the polar region and fishing in the icy waters. So, life is not that easy in those areas wherein we have got such severe winters. Everything is frozen, so hunting also becomes difficult, whereas fishing is too challenging for them. The northwest coastal tribes, including the Salish tribes of the British Columbia, spread of diseases by the settlers. When the indigenous people, when I say indigenous people, are the native people, those innocent tribal people of North America, when they came in contact with the European settlers, they sometimes became ill and died. Now, this shows that the indigenous Americans lacked immunity to diseases that the Europeans brought with them. Large number of their tribe members died from smallpox and other diseases. For indigenous people, this was confusing as well as frightening. They did not know how diseases were transmitted. They simply knew that often when they had contact with the European settlers, many of them became ill and died. Even if they used items such as blankets or clothing purchased from settlers, people who used the products became ill and died, especially elderly and children. Now, the domination by the settlers. They felt that this is an easy cup of tea wherein you don't have the people having the sophisticated weapons to defend themselves, whereas these settlers they had all the modern arms and ammunitions with them at their disposal, so they could easily dominate these natives and just keep on pushing them till the time they have pushed them into the corners of the continent. So here we have the information. As settlers arrived in greater numbers, they took over land where the indigenous people lived. Sometimes US troops were used to move indigenous people to make land available to the settlers. Troops had guns and cannons, which were superior to the arrows and spears that the indigenous people produced. About 350 years later, the indigenous population was very small and mostly relocated to isolated areas called reservations. Now, here comes activity 4. Again, from your textbook, we just need to match it. I have matched for you. You can go through. Then here we have activity 5, in which they have asked us two questions. I have written down the answer. Please check it. For the plenary, we have these 8 questions. You can answer them. I think it would be now easy for you to answer these questions. Okay, viewers, so I come to the end of my video. Thank you so much for watching my video, Learn SST. And if you haven't subscribed, then please do subscribe to my channel, like it, and share it with your friends and relatives. Take very good care of yourself. See you next time with my new video. Till then, take care. Bye bye.